They're here to make me lose things, to make a wheel break on my wagon. They're here to do all these different things to make my life miserable. Even the deities that I see above them are really only toying with me. So at that time, there's a fear of the unknown. There's a fear of what we cannot see, because that world exists only to bother us. That's extreme narcissism, you see? And some of us still have that today. When we think about the spirit world, those who we may not say are, dealing with a higher elevation of consciousness, may say, man, don't mess with that. Don't mess with that. Man, you mess with that, something gonna jump on you. Because it has nothing else better to do but to jump on you in your boring life. It could roam, it could be anywhere, but it wants to lose your car keys. It has nothing else better to do than that. You see the cultural conditioning. And then we come out of that and we develop, as time goes, the systems known as pantheism, where we look at pan just means a cross. We look at everything and see a deity in everything. We see a beauty in everything. The way the tree is shaped, the way the lakes come forth, the way the oceans come forth, the way the air is flowing, everything is an expression of that divine tumbling, right? Of that objective tumbling expressing itself through subjective means, right? So then now when we take that and we move forward and we come now into a higher form of elevation, a higher form of thinking, or even what we like to call African thought, right? We still have this idea that that world is here primarily to service me, and it loves me. My ancestors love me. And like the brother said, which is accurate, they have a different perspective, primarily because they don't have bodies, right? But let's look at some of the root ideas that we were birthed out of. One of the root ideas when you go to the content, like I said, I've hit the 5 points many times, looking for commonalities, because I built my own spiritual system on those commonalities, right? One common thing I always find is that our origins are not on the planet. I keep getting that no matter where I go. I always try to go back. What was the first? What was the first? What was the first? Oh, somebody's pointing up at the sky somewhere. I'll show you tonight. I've gotten that one before. Oh, Baba, yeah, tonight. I will show you tonight. I will show you tonight where we come from. Tonight. You see that star right there? See? But then if I look at Grecian culture, or even Roman culture, I got Valhalla. I have Mount Olympus. It's on the planet. And I can get there, I just have to climb. But I can get there, right? But I start to understand that as we go through our life, as we go through our journey, our chief and primary objective is not to get stuck here, but to go back home, right? Like Grandma used to say, this place ain't my home. One of these days, I'll be back home, my Lord. She kind of knew like, I'm in it, but I'm not of it, right? So if you're able to connect and contact with that ancestor, it means that they got stuck. You're not supposed to be able to connect with them unless they didn't fulfill their purpose and they're still earthbound spirits. That's why we celebrate when we say, oh, Baba Tunde. Baba means father, Tunde means to return. Or we say, Yeye Tunde, meaning mother has returned. Well, why did mother or father have to return? Why did they just go back home? Right? They did something wrong. Something didn't click, something didn't happen. And that's no disrespect to the ancestors. Like I said, I may say some things tonight that, you may not agree with. But you can study, right? And you will find out that everything I'm saying is accurate. I'm not making any of this up because it doesn't sound good, doesn't even feel good. Because I've contacted my grandmother. I've contacted my great-grandfather. That means something went wrong. And then I've had some that I contacted and then all of a sudden couldn't contact them anymore. They pushed on. They made it. You see? Good. Because I don't need to keep pulling you to figure out how to pay my mortgage. Or, I want a woman, I'm lonely, Grandma, what do I do? I don't need you for that. Because you have a journey that you're on that's really more important than anything I'm doing here on the planet, because I only really came here at the end of the day for me. And you came for you. And it's my time. So even though you may be whispering something in my ear, it doesn't mean that that's something that I should do, supposed to do, or need to do. Because you had your time. So let me ask some of you here. Have any of you ever met like your great-grandparents or your grandparent? Parent? All right, amen. Yeah, all the ones. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, a lot. That's pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna pick anybody. You raise your hand, right? Okay, so you met your great-grand. Are they still here or have they transitioned?
Oh, they passed.
They passed. Okay. Do you ever like try to contact them spiritually?
Well, just a couple months ago, I went to Dominican. To actually see a shrine, because my mom was like a shaman, or my great grandma was a shaman in that town.
Okay.
And something called me to go to Dominican. I went to go see the shrine and everything, and then I just had an experience when I was there, just a dream.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you came up in a tradition?
No, actually, not at all. It was weird. My mom passed away when I was younger, and then my grandma passed away later on. And then just by speaking with people, I found someone that found my father, and then everything kind of just went from there. Everything's been more spiritual than actually taught.
So your father is in the tradition?
No, he's not. It's come to me through visions and whatnot. And
gotcha. Kind of like what the brother was talking about.
Yeah.
Like that ancestral energy around you.
Yeah.
Right? So I asked that question, and I'm not going to ask too many people because it's a testy little area. We're contacting and connecting with these grand relatives and these great relatives, right? But a lot of us had parents that didn't bring us up in consciousness, right? I see a lot of heads nodding. So how great a job did your grandparents do?
That's a good question.
What's the exit? Another exit back here.
Yeah, I was gonna say most grandparents, like, they were ashamed of, those spiritual practices that they actually practiced that were from the continent, and so they tried to suppress the magic and the ancestral and that kind of stuff. So, like, my mom never really learned that. She observed that from my grandmother, but never really learned that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, from that standpoint, it's like the shame of your culture. It's also sometimes like for safety reasons. I remember like my great grandmother wouldn't teach because she was concerned about, racism and that concept. If they see you acting in your cultural ways, that could be dangerous for you as a child.
Sure.
So.
There's that aspect, but then there's also the aspect where I'm going to teach you this, son, and this stays in the house. And one day we will be able to live this out. There's some people who are initiated in Orisha tradition who have elekes. You guys ever heard the word elekes? A lot of people. Okay, good. So elekes just means sacred beads of the house. That's it. You're not even really supposed to wear them. That's an American thing, or really a diasporic thing. That's a whole nother concept, right? But we wear them, and just if you see somebody with elekes wearing them, don't say anything, all right? And don't mention my name, because I'm gonna lie. I'm gonna stick to my lie. I didn't tell them that. All right? So they misconstrued what I said. So, but when you go back home, you don't really see people walking around with elekes because they're the beads of the house. You might go to someone's house and see a bowl with beads in them. Those are the ile, house, kes, or ekes, beads, the house beads. Here we wear them around our neck, okay? Or sometimes we wear ides on our wrist, okay? It is what it is. We do different stuff here. It's, So, but ultimately, what you see, and the point that I'm getting at is when we start speaking about the primacy of the ancestors a lot of times, sometimes we don't take into account that, if that line was held and if that wisdom was really there, then we would be different people today. Many of us stumbled into consciousness. And like the brother said, there was a fear there. But there was also a latent fear still coming from the Spanish Inquisition, where, I can't do anything. I have to say I'm a Christian, just off the bat. Whatever you ask me, if it's something that I feel like is gonna bring me to another place, hey, let's do some yoga. I ain't in all that, man. I'm a Christian. I ain't doing those poses and channeling stuff into me. I don't know what it is, but I'm always going to use that as my default fallback because I'm still afraid because of what that Inquisition put in me. And then some of us recognize when we get to a point that our ancestors were just crazy. Grandma with you know, with the ackee and the green bananas, you know. Yeah, it was good. She could cook, but she was crazy. Yeah, she was crazy. You know, the moment we started to come and crystallize into something real or solid or material, the crazy set in. How long ago was that? Not very long. Well, Grandma didn't have a chance because she had a line and line and line and Grandpa. Let's not leave Grandpa. All right. But lines and lines and lines of collective crazy over millions of years. See, a lot of times we look at our ancestors, even when we look at our ancient work, and we say, see, that's what we need to be doing. That's not what we need to be doing because what they were doing was wrong. Because it was still held to conditions. They were in the place of conditions. And in order for them to rise back to a place of objectivity where there's no conditions, they had to completely, y'all are too loud in the back. Victor's children. Bring it down, whisper. All right? And don't tell jokes that's so funny because y'all getting amped up too loud. All right. So, like, that man came over here and going to yell at me. He don't know us. They're all our children, right? You know. So, in order for us to rise back up to that place of objectivity, where we're not looking at this or duality, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, we have to completely ferment down into nothing, into total rot. So from the moment that we started to crystallize into something real, we were rotting. Right now you're rotting. This is a process of rotting. So we have to be real careful sometimes when we say we're tapping into the wisdom of the ancestors, because the wisdom of the ancestors is still lunacy. I know, because I see I got like 1 or 2, and I got a bunch of. It's all right. Like the sister said, research, think about it. Or we can think about it right now. Let's make it easy. We know that, you know, just through carbon dating, which isn't accurate. So we're gonna round up a little bit. But we've been here for millions of years. Let's round up though. Let's just say thousands. Can we agree on that? Because we know the Sphinx is, well, the Nebu has been here for like 11,000 years. So that one's easy because they had water lines on that. There was water in that sand at some point, right? Now, before I do something like this, right? What do I have to do first?
Think about it.
Thank you. Okay. So that means before there's a material reality, there's a thought realm where things exist first, right? So let's just say we was here a couple thousand years, right? We'll just say that. We know it's longer, but just for the sake of the conversation. Is it possible that we were here in thought prior to that? Okay. So then that goes back, let's say, 20,000 years, right? Now, obviously we're talking about billions of years, but you know what I'm saying. So we existed in thought, but what creates a thought? I'm hearing it, but y'all are so scared, sweetheart. You said it. Spirit. So a spirit creates a thought, right? What motivates a spirit into being? Soul, akasha, ether, total objectivity. Because spirits are subjective, right? What does Oshun do? Bring things together. Ogun does, analyze things, right? Ogun can't turn around tomorrow and be Oshun. He has a subjective conditional lane that he has to stay in. So there was something that existed before that didn't have lanes. It just, somebody said earlier, it just is. It just is. It just was. It just be. Right? But just being, just is, just was, is boring. I could just stand up here and just spit straight information. I can sound like an encyclopedia. Right? And by now, most of you be asleep. Right? It's deep. It's deep. I recorded it on my phone, but I couldn't, you know, it's boring. You know? So I pull characters. A little Shango, you know, a little Eshu. I'll be a trickster and, you know, play with them a little bit. This, that, and the third. Right? So I'm pulling these different consciousness. You know, like the bracelet, what would Jesus do? Right? Because what I would do is not with that, so let me be that character for about 5 minutes. So before I'm speaking, I'm looking, and I'm saying, okay, who's up in here? Okay, yeah, they look a little salty. All right, let me give them this type of sweet balance. Well, I might come in here like, oh, they look like they was playing all day. Let me be this. I'm pulling different consciousnesses to be what I need to be in the moment, right? Because ultimately, me at my core, like the brother was talking earlier, I think he's over there somewhere, but he was talking about I, when we were talking about the ancestors, right? And I'm speaking to myself. Well, what is the myself? Yes, brother. What is the I? The I is the objective self that doesn't have any character. It's not cool. It's not funny. It's not anything. It just be. You see? So before there was thought, which leads us down a certain path, there was just the I. There was just the all. Right? So if we look at our existence on the planet and we say, okay, well, you know, we're tapping into the wisdom of the ancestors. We have to look beyond even when the ancestors had physical bodies. And we have to go to when they were just a thought that emanated from a spirit, that emanated from a soul reflection. So by the time we start tapping into grandma and great-grandma, you know how deep they are in their crazy?
It's true.
Now all the people had their head turned to the side when I first said it. Are you on this side with me now, or you still like you don't know what he's talking about? You still don't know what he's talking about, right? You still got your arms crossed. Yeah, I'm watching you. All right, so we got a couple people in here like, nah, it still doesn't make sense, right? Don't worry about it, you get that. So the thing is, we start to understand again, just going into the formation and the development of a person. The development of a being, it always starts from non-being. And it goes from non-being, or yeku, which is death, or transformation, or the feminine aspect, where it's nothing. It wants nothing, but it goes so deep into the void that it's bottomless. And then something agitates it. And it says, you know what? Let me go out into infinity. And I want to have a form of exactitude. So what is the exactitude? I'm going to exactly be this. I am going to be, I'm going to exist. See, that's when the male principle comes into measure there. So a lot of times when we say things like, God is a man, right? We rail against that, of course, God being a man, right? I mean, in the room? You what? No. Sisters rampage. When we speak about patriarchy and things like that, right? But God is a dude. How do we know that?
His name's not Goddess.
Because his name's not Goddess? There's no such thing as a goddess.
That's right.
It's a fake term. It's actually a term that's disrespectful to women.
Yeah.
Because once you say goddess, you're saying something that is, you said it earlier, lion, lioness, right? So you're already saying, when we look at, and let's say a true form of God, just take us down another path, it's okay. God has no sex. So as soon as I say God, if you have to say goddess, then you've already formulated in your mind that you're talking about a dude. Now we already know what dude you're talking about. We know the programming you got. Now you might not say it, but we know it. You may not have even been inside that church in the past 20 years, but it's there. Breaking down the fallacies of that book can be done in 3 minutes. No J's in the Hebrew language. Okay. But the programming, woo, that programming is deep, right? So when we say God, we say, you're the dude up there, but then we got the goddess, and they're together. They're not together, they're one thing. He ain't over there, she ain't over there. It's one entity. It has no sex. We anthropomorphize it because our brains are just that underdeveloped. We can't imagine anything outside of ourselves because when we're functioning from our lower vibration, what we seek to do is extend ourselves out into the universe, right? So I see the brother here, and I say, you know what, man, you remind me of myself. you know what, you remind me of myself when you know what, you remind me of myself when right? I'm so narcissistic. Everything has to be me. So even when I think about my deities, instead of me trying to become like them, I make them like me. You see? So, but we know that the God that most people think of and speak of is masculine because only the masculine wants to be. The feminine already is. The masculine is the one looking to try to figure out something. The feminine, I don't really care. Ultimately, she really ain't that important. The masculine, well, I need to know if it's not that important. So he comes outside of that egg. He comes outside of that zero or that cipher that already had everything to begin with, so it wasn't really wanting anything. And he says, but I need to know, so I'm going to go be. Right? And in that being, anytime you're seeking the being, you're functioning through the masculine form. The fact that all of you have a body here, the body is the masculine aspect of it. That's the masculine aspect because it has form. It's condensed, right? The feminine aspect is the aspect of you that can meditate and say, all is well. I've got everything I need. I'm good to go. There's no concept of time. So why am I worried about when this is going to happen when, heck, it happened when I came out of my mama's bush. It's always been here. And then all of a sudden it shows up because now you acting right. You acting like somebody's supposed to have that thing that you saying, oh, when's it going to show up? When's it going to show up? Jack has already been there. See what I mean? So the movement towards being, the movement towards doing, the movement towards definition is what we perceive as a God. That's why we start to name the God. Well, that's Jehovah. That's Jehovah Rapha. That's Elah. That's Olodumare, right? But the only way to control something is to name it. So once you name your deity, it's no longer your deity. I don't care what you try to, we do the slick things. Well, I'm talking about the universe. Come on, man, I know what you're talking about. We try all these little slick ways to hold on to our religiosity. Well, I'm talking about Akasha. And then we use our traditional names, right? Like I said, Oludumare, Oduduwa, Orumila, Sekhmet. We have all these different things, but once you're naming it, it's no longer over you. What exists over you, you can't name. It's like when we deal with the Kabbalah, we have Ketha, the crown. Can't see the crown. Can't name the crown. But then we have Ein Sof, where you get the word sulfur and soul. That, no one even knows what the heck that is. Can't name it. We use those terms only as a descriptor, but not as a definer. You see? So that place of undefinition is the feminine place. Once we start defining something, I don't care how cool it is, how tough it is, how loving it is, it's masculine. So the other side takes what we call faith. Faith is a knowing. Faith says, there's a black hole behind the sun. Ancestors call it Amun. But, we're going to deal with Ra, because Ra, first of all, because Ra sounds tougher, right? Ra. So we're going to deal with Ra. And Yorubas had Ra, which means lightning. We're going to deal with that. But behind that lightning is Oya. Behind that sun is Amun. Behind that wisdom and knowledge of Orumila is Oduduwa. Spirit of the black woman's womb. That's what the name means. Okay? Wa is character, or feminine character. Du is womb. O is spirit. Okay? So, ultimately, once you start defining and naming these gods, you done missed it. You done already missed the boat. Now, you're speaking or hearing from someone who is an initiated priest in several indigenous systems. I speak about the Yoruba a lot because that's people more interested in the Orisha, but Palo as well, Voodoo, several other systems. I've dealt with Sangoma for a while. And I'm telling you, as someone who's in the system, when you hear me say those names, I'm already speaking about something that's lesser, because I shouldn't know the name. Okay? Now, I know that thinking and that ideology becomes difficult because, again, we're functioning from a place of conditional subjectivity. right? Everything has a condition, everything is subject to something. But again, like I said earlier, when we go beyond the subjectivity, when we go beyond the conditions, we go into a place that it just is, there's no judgment, there's no single path of creation, it's wide open. And in that space, you can't name anything, you can't control anything. Why? Because it's pure chaos, right? Like, my grandfather used to say, you know, my grandmother would do stuff sometimes that he didn't like, right? So he would say, he'd pull me to the side, he'd be like, yo, go in there and tell your grandmother to get rid of some of them clothes she bought, right? That was his thing. My grandmother, she was Oshun woman, she liked to stay dead. I ain't gonna tell her that, man, you talk to your wife. That's what I tell her, as a little boy, but we was close, like I talk to him like that. Man, I can't tell that woman nothing. You know a woman gonna do whatever she wanna do. I understood it later, you know, when I had to have those conversations. At the end of the day, a woman is a water energy. You can't tie water into a knot. The only thing you could do is try to toughen up the walls around her so that when she's moving, she'll bounce against something and maybe go somewhere else, if you're lucky. But ultimately, that water's gonna wear the wall down anyway. Erosion. Well, that's the jazz, that's the fun of it, you see? And we have so many stories in our tradition that speak to that, you know, speak to the wars sometimes that went on between the male archetypes and the female archetypes, you know, and how eventually it just ended up like a stalemate. You know, the male archetype would say, hey, man, go do this, and the female, I ain't doing it. Go do it, man, I'm gonna rain down on you. I ain't doing it. Right, so then they go at it, there's a big explosion, nothing happens, and then like another archetype will come in and be like, look, man, you can't tell what she gonna do, what she feel like doing. That's the moral of the story. Right? I make it simple, you know what I mean? If I start talking all the cryptic stuff, then it's like, that's what they all pretty much say, all right? And that's an important lesson to learn, you know, it's all about choice. But ultimately, again, because she's functioning from that realm of objectivity, she's not so beholden to your condition. I heard the brother speak about the term evil earlier, right? I'm not trying to mess up your peace, all right? Keep the peace. All right? Women are evil.
Oh, you messed it up now, bro.
This is just me talking, you know what I mean? Because what is evil? Should have had some quick answers. What's evil?
Live backwards.
Huh?
Live backwards.
That's wicked. When you're living against nature. Anyone? Because I'm sure you wouldn't want somebody calling you evil. Right? You probably have something to say about that. What's evil?
Breaking the rules.
Breaking the rules. Good. That's a form of it. Do women tend to follow rules?
No.
Never. The only time a woman will follow a rule is when you make her uncomfortable. Yeah, I know, sister. You could tell, and brothers, you can attest to this. You can tell your wife to stop doing something you don't like till you blue in the face. It's not until you make her uncomfortable that she actually stops, because ultimately she don't care. Baby, you know, every time we get into disagreement, you start yelling and flipping out. I don't appreciate it. You make me feel like I'm less than a man. You know, I really can't do anything. All I can do is just leave the house. I don't see why I have to leave the house just because you feel like having an attitude. Boom, 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 boom. And, you know, on top of that, my mama used to yell at me when I was younger, and it really just brings me back to a place in my childhood that I don't appreciate. I wish you would really stop yelling. Oh, baby, she'll cry and everything. You know, yeah, next time I ain't gonna do it. Next time she's gonna yell at you again. You just make me so mad, though. I can't help it. Until you ignore her. She start yelling, you bring down that attic ladder, climb up into the attic, and then you lock the door behind you and turn up your music. She ain't like that, you know. Or she start yelling, you go siphon all the gasoline out of the car, you know, and drive off. You know, don't do that. But you know, you just start doing things to make her uncomfortable because you're putting up a hard wall and she's water. And she said, oh, don't do that. I'm not going to do that now because a hard protocol has been put in front of me. Because she's evil. Eve is woman, like the brother said, but El actually is the deification of the Eve. Like Raphael, Uriel, Al, Allah. Anytime you see it. So if Eve El is the feminine deity, she's functioning from a place that's not even on the planet. She's a deity. So what do your rules mean to her? She don't need them, you need them. Because you wanted to be. You came as a dude. The dude wants to be. The dude needs rules to acclimate himself to the environment because James Brown told you it's a man's world. It is a man's world. This one. But this world is controlled by one that you can't see, by the evil woman. Yeah, I know. You ain't gotta be my friend. I ain't here to be your friend. My grandfather used to say, I don't care, boy. You gonna eat them green bananas. Mushy grandpa. You know, so we start to see where that balance is, and the work that we do through our spirituality is to try to bring those together. It's to try to reconnect them. Reconnect the righteous one with the evil one. That's all. Because in her disobedience, she presents evolution. Because somebody has to look at your parents and say, I ain't doing that. You taught me to do that, and I understand that, I appreciate it, but you know what? There's something else going on out here. It's the Lucifer story. I think I can fly higher than you. I think I could be better than you. I think I can ascend your throne. I mean, he said all those eyes. So then Most High said, okay, cool. Then you're going to go down to the dust with everybody else. And then you're going to work your way back up. Because the only way that you can be better than me is to go through a condition that I've never gone through. And that's the human condition. You see? So the rejoining is rejoining with the creativity and the funk of the femininity, or what we call the objectivity, where she just doesn't care. I don't care about your rule. I don't care about your edicts. I don't care about your doctrine. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, period. And it joins now with the stiff order of the man who says, but there's rules to this. And those rules, what he's really doing is he's recognizing the laws. He's recognizing the spirit. See, the man is always going to be more subject to the spirit. I know we like to say women are more spiritually sensitive, but they're actually not. Women are more spiritually commanding. Men are more spiritually sensitive because they're subject to the laws of the spirit, more so than the woman. Why? Because they need them. When you go into Hindi culture, women are not taught Tantra. Why are they not taught Tantra? They don't need it. Their ego isn't all misaligned. When you go into Yoruba culture, they tell you that a woman can't see Odu. Why? Because Odu means womb. Why does she need to see the womb? She already got one. She's sitting on top of it. You need to learn what the womb is. You see? And it's not to say that one is superior over the other. It's just a joining of worlds. Like I said, here, this is a man's world. We're acclimated. We out here, we're doing this. We got this. There, that's where she got that. And there's man and woman inside of all, well, male and female inside of all of us. So, it's not to say that if you're a man, you know nothing about spirituality, or if you're a woman, you can't navigate the world. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you recognize the poles inside of you, those north and south poles, and you recognize the need for objectivity, and you recognize the need for subjectivity, because it is through our subjectivity that we become corrupt. You need that corruption. When someone tells you don't steal from the store, it's not right to do. And then you start to go through those moral dilemmas because you're hungry. That's a form of corruption, because who says it's not right to do? Maybe it's not right to have a society where I can't eat. Mm-hmm. So where's the true corruption? You see, it's in the fact that I'm identifying with something that you've told me to identify with. So now I begin to corrupt my pure nature. When a child walks through a store, they see the gum, I'm taking it. Sometimes you see it when you get outside the store, you're feeling right, you'll bring it back, my son just, or, all right, you got that one, shorty, just don't do it again, right? But ultimately what it is that the more you align yourself with the rules and the construct of any given society that you want to identify with, the more you corrupt yourself. Because you're taking yourself outside of your pure objectivity. You're taking yourself outside of your pure unconditional nature. The brother said early in his poem that when you look at the, I think he said Snow White, where he said kissing her to purify her. But in fact, in our traditions, has always been the opposite. The parting of the Red Seas, or going through that menses as a man, when you're experiencing that blood, was your purification. Or having your woman clean your feet with her hair. And what do we build on top of? Like when we say we're having a build session, what does that mean? Y'all don't talk like that up here?
Yep.
Give me the candle.
Yeah, we do.
Give me the candle away.
You're throwing ideas out there. You place your ideas together.
Okay, you must be from New York. I got you. Throwing,
From Toronto. She's from Toronto.
throwing ideas together, right? You're sharing information. Do you ever share information with your ancestors? Got some yeses. I got like 2 yeses. Got mainly no's, and I got a yes over there. I saw you. That's what they're for. That's your opportunity to give service. It's through your ancestors. They are your empathetic link. They are the feeling of the spiritual. Nothing else feels up there, or around there, or next to there, or back there, or in there. Nothing, because it didn't experience it. Your ancestors are the only thing that feels, and when you're sitting there crying, everything else is like, I never cried. I never had an endocrine system. I never had a chakra system. I don't know what that is. What are you doing? Just give me a symbol of what you want, because I don't even speak. You doing all this intellectualizing when you come into the altar, and you don't realize that we actually don't speak. We only work in symbols. Give me a symbol of what you want. Oh, I put money on the altar. Oh, you want money? Okay. Well, here's another thing. Because I actually don't have feelings and I don't care anything about you, this is transactional. So, give me some water. Give me some gin. Give me some chicken. Give me a goat. You know, give me a snail. Give me some goat's milk. And take your top off.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes they, you know, because it's all transactional. But when it's with the ancestors, it's a little different, because that empathetic link is there.
Earlier you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but suggested that if we are able to be in connection and keep contact with an ancestor of ours that's passed on, that would suggest most likely that they've done something wrong, or that they're here for a reason, when in all reality they should be elsewhere in whatever kind of realm. So my question to you is, are you suggesting that just because of the fact that we're experiencing a connection with the spirit in this realm, that they don't have the ability that they don't have the ability to have gone through other realms, dimensions, galaxies, whatever, and choose and make the conscious choice to come back?
Some do.
Yeah.
But even still, you still have to serve them. They're still in a place that you may have come back here. But let's look at it like this. If you did all your work that you were supposed to do, right? All right, let's take it back to school, right? When you finished and did your work early, what did you want to do?
Get out of there.
Get out of there and do what? Do some more work?
No.
Do what?
Play.
Play.
Yeah.
So, if you went through this whole horrible journey, 500 lifetimes, AIDS, herpes, bit by dogs, you know, all that, what are you gonna come back here and do?
Be of service, you know, maybe come back in another form or another life form or in some other shape or form to be able to give back to family that may not necessarily be attentive to, you know, matters of consciousness in life and all that kind of stuff.
Because you want to come back and work after you do your work. Come on, man, knock it off. All right, you're gonna come back in here and be a mumble rapper. That's what you're gonna do. All right, you're gonna do trap music. You're gonna be a mumble rapper, and you're gonna smoke crack. we sometimes we don't realize the ones that are asleep, they already did their work, right?
Yeah.
You want to go play now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm making light of it, I'm joking. But yeah, there are some that may come back to assist. But primarily, the greatest assist and the greatest resource you could do is not being here as this.
Yeah.
So why would I come back here and handicap myself again and not be listened to again when I can create a broader and grander reality in another space? If I come back here, I'm coming back just to play because I did my work already.
Yeah.
Maybe. I saw some other hands.
So you touched upon, you talked one time about not fearing space. So But sacrifice and the blood, actually it's not the blood that you sacrifice, it's actually the melanin.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just expand upon that, please?
Okay, so when you say sacrificing the blood, you're speaking about like when we're doing spiritual work?
Yeah, so I know you were talking about that. I want something online, and I just wanted to expand upon it a little bit more.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Now, I'm speaking in extreme terms because a lot of you are not used to me. You haven't heard, like you've heard obviously some stuff, you watched some stuff, but I'm taking you right to the far side quickly. So I preface what I'm going to say by that. So what I may say, normally I may ramp up to it, but you're not going to see me that much after this, right? Spirits are vampires. That's what they are. They can't do anything without a vehicle of travel. And where are they traveling from? Nowhere to here. That's what a vampire is. Vampire, unless it gets some blood, it can't it can't walk amongst the living, right? Spirits are the same exact way. They're constantly looking for plasma, or they're constantly looking for food, and they extract the spirit out of that food in order to exist in this plane. That's why if you go to a spirit right now and say, hey, I want you to do this for me, it's going to say, well, I need you to do this for me, because I can't move anything by myself. I'm in a different realm. So in order for me to cross over into that realm, I need a vehicle that I can travel through. Melanin. Now let's get to the melanin. So we got that part, right? Spirits are the vampires. And sometimes it's just that vicious. So even though I'm using extreme words and extreme terms, some of them are just that foul. A lot of your angels are that vicious. Angels and demons are the same. No, you get the halo. But, they're the same thing. It's the same exact thing. Should I wear the black shirt or should I wear the white shirt? That's all it is. One takes you up into the light, what happens? You go blind. One takes you up in the dark, what happens? You go blind. How you want your blindness? All right, they're the same thing. All right, so a lot of times they have a vicious grab, energy grab. Now, let's get to melanin. Melanin, another word for melanin is mercury. Okay, now mercury, if you look at even in Roman literature, right, you had the deity Mercury. You had Mercury in Rome, and in Greece you had Hermes, right? We had Eshu, we had Jehuti, we had different messenger deities, even Pan, even Lucero, and it goes on and on, right? But ultimately, this was an archetype like the planet Mercury. The planet Mercury being the first planet from the sun, the black planet. These are entities that are able to exist in a realm that others don't have the fortitude to be. Like planet Mercury can sit right up next to the sun, black like melanin, sit up right next to it and not burn up. Okay? Because it's so dense. It's 3/4 iron, so it's a very dense and slow planet. So when we think about those messenger archetypes like Mercury, we recognize, okay, they're getting information from that sun, that creator sun being that root. And they're able to send that information back down to us. That's why when we look at zodiacal information a lot, we say that Mercury, people who have that, or Geminis, for instance, they're good communicators. Because what are they communicating? Things from a place that most of us can't go to, right? So that's that Mercury or melanin aspect. Remember, they're the same word. Mercury, melanin, same thing. It's just an older word. So you have that melanin aspect. Now, the melanin or the mercury goes to a place that normally we cannot go in order to bring things back through. What exists inside of the blood? See, everybody has melanin. And I know a lot of times when we look at epidural melanin, we say, I got melanin. You have melanin, fruit has melanin, plums have melanin, oranges even have melanin, right? Anything that has some form of pigmentation. But you also have melanin in the blood. Chlorophyll is melanin, so it's in the blood. So we use the blood as a vehicle to travel from here or from there to here. So that's what the aspect of sacrifice is. It's not necessary, I'm just killing this animal because of the energy that's released. When you read like some literature, they'll tell you that the reason we do animal sacrifice is because we're sacrificing what we would have eaten. That's not true, because using animal is still eating. It's just the blood is not, which we wouldn't have eaten anyway. Or they'll tell you it's the violence of the act releases so much energy that that's what propels entities into motion. All of that is wrong. It's only the melanin. So what that means is you don't need the animal. You can use plums, you can use eggplants, you can use raisins, you can use figs, you can use anything that has that vehicle of travel. I can use my voice. My voice is deeply melanated. Not everybody on the planet sounds like this, or like Brother Victor, or, we have a different tone and timbre, you see? So the melanin is nothing but a vehicle of travel. If you want to get deeper into that and learn more, one of the easy ways you can learn about, vampire is always good, but the Kemetic archetype Khonsu, Khonsu. And Khonsu, basically the Su aspect, or just like in the Yoruba you have Osu, it means the moon. So he was called the night traveler, Khonsu, that was his name. And essentially what he did was he traveled by the rays of the moon. Okay, and what this was a symbolic reference to the menses. Okay, it was the moon time. So Khonsu was a moon archetype. Okay, so essentially what it was that melanin traveling at night. Because that's when melanin is active. It's not during the day in the sun. I know we rejoice all that, but it's nighttime. That's that Khonsu archetype. So if you want like a more, I'm giving you the vampire thing because it's easy, but if you want like a more indigenous, get in the Khonsu aspect, and that will tell you how because Khonsu was an earlier form of Heru, right? So it was that savior or that messenger archetype that brought that information. Heru means light, or that which is above, that information from above, Does that give it to you? Okay. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask about, you talked about the feminine versus the masculine, the feminine being more on the evil side, the chaotic side, the masculine being more the rules-based. From your perspective, how important is it for, let's assume women are carrying most of the feminine and then the masculine, how important is it for women to be able to express that chaos in society, whether it's through relationships or et cetera, especially in a society where, especially in the Western world, it's mostly male-dominated and rules and protocols and laws dominated. How do you see women being able to be healthy in terms of expressing that chaos and evilness?
Keep it out of society. It's not for society. When you start dealing with society and social order, you're dealing with the masculine. And just like it's not so safe for me to stay in that unseen realm. I'll be walking down the street and talking to people who are not there. She could kick it there all day. You see? So the expression of that feminine, even when we look at an indigenous perspective, we have women's societies. We have opportunities. One of the things that, one of the grand challenges that we have is that we lack sisterhood and we lack brotherhood. There are things that you and I express as brothers in certain modalities that other people might look at and say we're crazy. I might want to jump over there and wrestle you. And it might be like fun, yeah, let's wrestle. We're knocking everything over. Everyone thinks we're crazy, but that's just what men do. Sometimes we need to just exercise those muscles, even if we both just breaking our fingers and stuff. But that's our men crazy. And women need those opportunities where they can do their female crazy. But the reality is, once you start speaking about trying to infuse that into society, the only thing you can do is dilute it, because it's actually anarchy. It would destroy a society. And if you look in many empires, Ottoman Empire, you look at the Roman Empire, even Kemet to a degree, you look at, we'll just take those three. Whenever you see women to the forefront, it always heralds the decline of the society. The society implodes when women come to the forefront, because that's not where they're supposed to be. Because the things that run and govern a society, in truth, are so far from a woman's power and ability that she's disrespecting herself. See, a lot of times when we look at society or social structure, and we look at power within a social structure, we only look at it, like you said, from a male perspective. And that defines power. So if you look at a woman, you say, well, what makes you a woman? Well, I have a good job, I handle my responsibility, I'm educated, I read a lot. That's all male stuff, right? So, and most women who you ask, well, what's the woman stuff? I don't know. because no one ever taught them. You see? So as far as when you're speaking about what rules the social structure and things like that, that's not the end all be all. It's just because we don't invest in that abstract aspect or the feminine aspect, it becomes the end all be all. So now when women want an expression in the voice, they gotta go where they don't even really need to be. Their voice is elsewhere. There's power elsewhere for them, you know. So that's what I would say to that. What was it? Okay.
Different parts of North Africa where you've been, according to what you've learned, what do they say about the dream realm or dreams?
Yeah, dreams, see the thing is, when it comes to dreams, right, we don't even have to go that far. Like, we could go to the Caribbean. It's the same exact mentality. Dreams trump everything, right? You go to church, Miss Dottie, if you're in Jamaica, Miss Dottie comes over, that little doily on her head, you know, come over. I had a dream. Listen, so it's the dream. See, a lot of times here we depend a lot on divination, and a lot of that has to do because of the fact that a lot of us are landlocked. You know, but when you're in a tropical environment, everything you're eating is hydrated. You know, first of all, you don't hardly even drink water. You know, when I'm over there, I get laughed at a lot because I always have water in my pocket or something. It's like, oh yeah, Baba, in this water. Because you don't need to drink water. Like, you know, everything you're eating is hydrated, the environment's hydrated. You're just eating from the air. There's just nutrients kind of floating around, and you're just absorbing them through your skin, right? So, with that, all of that water energy, that salt water energy that's around you, a lot of times, there's a lot of places that go coastal. You know, obviously the Congo's a little different, but divination is not as stressed as much as we stress it here, right? Because the environment gives you so many messages. So here it's like, I gotta toss my coin, or get my pendulum out, or my coconut, or whatever, but I have all my cards, my tarot, all of these different things because the environment is giving me nothing. What is this? This is a cave. I can't feel nothing with this. You know what I mean? So there's no vibrations that come up through this, right? Even if I was to walk with a walking cane and it was wood and I'm hitting the concrete, what messages am I getting? Nothing. Then we have all the electromagnetic energy around. Whereas when you go into a lot of low-tech environments, you want them to stop. You know, I have a home overlooking the ocean, right, in Ghana. It looks like paradise. It's nothing I would be able to buy here. I couldn't afford nothing like that here. But it looks like it's overlooking the cliff. It's real pimpish, right? Now, a lot of times I don't even bring people to that house because, here, I'll give you an example. Beginning last year, I brought one of my students over. Elder sister, and she had her husband's ashes, and she wanted to distribute them into the water, right? As soon as she showed up, though, like got off the plane, she was like, you know, I want you to take me to these areas where these Muslim men are trafficking these young girls. I was like, yo, chill. Come here with all that, all right? Because first of all, like, somebody will put their hands on you. You get in people's faces like that. This ain't back there, like, chill. See, I'm just saying it. You know, she come with all that American. I'm like, this is not the spot for that. So the whole time she was there was like, I'm constantly walking away from her. Like, just get away from me. You know, you brought all American demons over with you, right? She goes to distribute her husband. I got a boat for her, I chartered a boat. They get about maybe 30 feet out, the boat capsizes. Right? So I'm hearing about everybody's running to me, Baba, the problem is a problem. I come down, run, because where my house is, like, you can look down and like the ocean is, it's like a cliff. At the bottom of the cliff is the ocean, right? So I'm seeing them come up the walk, and she's soaking, and she's got two people on two arms, right? So I'm like, you know, you all right? Yeah, Baba. It's just, I can't. 1 minute we were in the water, next thing it just flipped over. I've been going to the continent for 20 years. I've never seen that happen. That's one. And she was with fishermen. They don't flip over. That's all they do all day, right? So I said, well, Iya, you know what? Just lay down. You know, get you some better clothes. She had a nice little outfit. She really dressed for the whole ashes thing, right? That was done. It's ripped and all that. So she's in, I have a couple of homes on this cliff, so she's in one of the houses, right? I was doing something, I don't know where I was. Another brother runs up to me, Baba, come quick. My ceiling fell in on her. Yeah. So I'm like, dead? You know, like, because we're in the bush, so I'm kind of like, we're gonna have to spend this one, because I got enough problems. You know, like, so I'm like, she's dead. You know what I mean? And like, no, Baba, she don't know, but she's scared, she's calling for you. So I go, run over, hey, what's good? You know, she's like, and it was a brand new roof. I had just put the roof up. I put them on I have 3 houses on the cliff, but all 3 houses. I'm in one, everything's fine. The other one, no leaks, nothing. Hers caves in, right? Oh, no. So I actually have it in my phone. I still got the video where we're in there and the brother's like, yeah, it's wet. It's wet right here. And over there, the water is coming in, you know. So I'm just looking at her, and third incident. So I had to fly back to the States. Yeah, I know. I had to do a workshop, right? So she was staying an extra, I think 2 or 3 days after I left. So I said, you know, you got to run it. I have a staff over there. So I'm like, they'll take care of you. You got to run to the spot. Have fun, right? And she's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to relax. Because, you know, this has been real trying. And I'm feeling bad because I'm like, you know, I did tell you to come. Because I invite a lot of people to my home, you know, and I'm, you know, nothing like this. I've seen similar, but not like back to back. And I knew what it was because I tried to talk to her. I was like, you know, you really have a perception about men that maybe needs to be adjusted, and I think before your husband allows you to distribute his ashes, you're gonna have to reconcile with that. I respect men. I respect men to the fullest. It's just these brothers don't know how to respect me. All right. So I'm not gonna riff with you here. You know, this is not the place for that. So okay, I just did my usual. I got you. So I get a call. And they said, I almost said her name. They called her auntie. They said, auntie was attacked on the beach. Nobody, I'm near Safuhin. Everybody knows I'm crazy. There's 0 crime or violence in that village. Nothing, 0. The worst we had, and this was my own, he's like, well, he's my son, but here we would say godson. My godson, years ago, that's how he became my godson, he used to steal sheep. So that's like the only crime that was ever there. He was a little boy, but he's yak from climbing trees and getting coconuts. And he used to just do it in broad daylight. Because no one would think you're stealing it because nobody steals. And then they found out, nobody could talk to him. They called me. He's been my son ever since. You know, he's 21 now. So there's no crime. So I spoke to him. I said, what happened? She said, I'm on the beach. I was reading your book. She had to throw that in there. I'm on the beach, you know, reading your book, and a man came up to me and was standing over me like this, and then grabbed, she had, what do you call it, sarong?
Yes.
Strong? Sarong. She had a sarong, right? She said the man tried to pull my sarong off, right? And I'm like fighting and I'm yelling and I'm saying, go away. And he's like, you know, then he tries to grab my pocketbook, you know, and all of these different things. And then I said, what happened? She said, I was screaming so loud that he ran up the cliffside. And I'm like, ran? Because it's very steep, you know. And she's like, yeah, he ran up. So the other brothers came running from the village when they heard her. And was like, you know, auntie, what's wrong? And so they went running up the cliffside looking for him. So I'm on the phone. I said, you know, you sure it was a person? You know we're going with this. And I said, I got to tell you something. Because she was in front of my spot. Nobody does anything in front of my spot. I said, no one would do that. They know that's my house up there. And she was like, I'm telling you this and that. And she said, but one thing I can say is that the way he ran up that cliffside, it was like it was just flat ground. And she was like, even those big strong fishermen, when they weren't running, like they were climbing up. And he just ran up. And I said, were you dreaming? She was like, my clothes are ripped. The strap on my pocketbook is messed up. So I couldn't say it then, but I said it later. And I said, the ancestor jumped out of that water. That's why I don't swim in the water back home. I never have, never will, because I don't swim in cemeteries. I said, the ancestor jumped out of that water and dealt with you the way that you kept saying that men over there would deal with you. Showed you the reality that, and no one found him. No one found him after that. There was no incidents after that, but that they went running for like miles and was like, Baba, we didn't see anybody, there's no tracks. These are hunters too, like there's no tracks, there's nothing. So, yeah, to answer your question. Right. Things get real, they get real over there. So, you know, the idea of the focus on dreams and the information that's there is real heavy, but a lot of times what we are presents itself so quickly. And that's why now, I don't even bring people to that house now. This was like a year and a half ago, because some people are not ready to be that close to the water, because that's where all the action is. You know, as soon as you get there, you hear them. I see them like walking like right in front of me, you know. So I have another house more in the bush, and I said, y'all go back there. We're gonna build you for the water. You see. So yeah. Wow. Okay, I thought I saw a hand earlier. Maybe y'all scratching. All right. Yeah. So, you know, essentially, like I said, the ideas, a lot of the ideas and the modalities that we just have about African thought, African systems, are so far off from what's really practiced there, and so far off from what was intended. What was intended from the beginning was adaptation, was engineering. We are engineers as an African people. To go back and try to reclaim something just because it was crystallized or most documented, I know that's always the argument for Kemet. You know, we got so much literature there, so what? There's so many other places. There's over 1,000 languages there. You know, so a lot of times we get stuck in a place where we feel most comfortable. A lot of people will embrace Kemet, honestly, because people of alien cultures have embraced Kemet. So they gave you the thumbs up, so now you say, okay, well then it's good then. Because it's more sterile. You're not gonna see the animals. You know, people dancing with the chickens and stuff. It was there. You know, Osir, or what we call Osiris, his sacred animal was the black pig that was sacrificed in his temples. You know, pigs, pork. You know, so it's important that we just look beyond where we feel comfortable at, and sometimes we have to go to more grotesque and wild ideas, like maybe spirits are vampires, and if spirits are vampires, then what am I if I'm wrapping myself around a spiritual reality? Wrap yourself around an ori, or a conscious reality. And then once you do that, you control all the demons, the goblins, the angels, all that. They're here for you to employ, not your ancestors. Your ancestors are here for you to help them.
Because they're trapped.
They're trapped. And if you're helping them properly and doing your job, they don't even have to come back. You can help them from where they're at. When I read out loud. When I read out loud, I read in front of my shrine with the candle lit and with water there. If I'm gonna get it, you gonna get it. I'm not gonna come to the shrine speaking a language you don't understand. Even though I know there's a translator, I'm gonna speak my language. I'm gonna teach you Zulu. I'm gonna teach you Yoruba. I'm gonna teach you Tree. I'm gonna teach you Fanti. You see? So now you have a more powerful language to communicate with, so you can get the heck out of where you're at. I'll see you. I'm gonna get there. I don't need you to be in the ancestral realm because I need the company. It's cool, I got enough company down here, and I'll see you. I'd rather you be there. Let's go back to Mars, let's go back to Uranus. All those different places that at the nighttime in the night sky were pointed out to me, saying that's where we come from. That's our origins, not here, there. I'd rather go there. So we should be pushing the ancestors up as opposed to pulling. Yes, sir.
The question,
Okay, I
question
got you.
then is about African libation, where you pour spirits, liquor, and you call on the spirit of the ancestors to come and share their wisdom with you.
Mhm.
What's your comments about that?
In terms of what? Them sharing wisdom?
Yes.
Well, a lot of you are facing this way right now, right? I can see behind you. Know me? Okay. That's it. Their perspective is different. So because their perspective is different, their experience is different, their wisdom is different. It doesn't mean that it's the end all be all, but it means that if I stand on this table right now, which I wouldn't, but if I stood on that table right now, I have a higher perspective than anybody else in the room. I can see some things that you cannot see, but if somebody's up there, they can see things that I can't see. Now, ultimately, my real self is up there beyond the realms, because when you're dealing with realms, you're dealing with counting. Ancestral realm, astral realm. When you get beyond counting is where the real stuff is. And that's where we actually exist. That's where the I is. All of this is just we're just real dense crystals. This is just a reflection of light. That's it. So yeah, when we're pulling forth ancestral wisdom, we're just pulling forth a higher or a different kind of perspective. You know, if I was in a wheelchair, I have a different perspective than all of you. Mm-hmm. Right?
No, I was just agreeing with you before. I didn't have a...
Oh, I thought you had a question.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Think anyone else? Well, or you all thoroughly disgusted.
Well,
I'm curious about your time in the Congo and what's your thoughts on the Congo? Politics of the Congo.
Yeah, okay, so give it to you raw. When I first went to the Congo, I went to the Congo shortly after, let me see, it's the second trip, shortly after the Million Man March. Okay, so the first, 95, right? And I went to Nigeria, and then I went to the Congo. My idea with going to the Congo was to set some people straight. I know it's crazy, it sounds like a colonialist, I had never even been there before, but the rape. And I was like, we can't be doing that. So I really had this mind, like, I'm gonna go to the Congo. Have my Roscoe, and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna stop this rape thing. That was, a lot of growth. I had to grow, So when I got there, one of the things that really impressed upon me was the level of indifference. The sense of a lot of times we really preach loud that whole it takes a village to raise a child, and back in Africa, it's not like that back home. That's why I built an orphanage. And I'm in the process of building a bigger safe house in Ghana because nobody cared about these children. And when I went to the Congo and I was presenting certain things and saying, listen, it's not even a court thing, you just point them out. Just keeping it, because my whole mentality was, I'll be on a plane and gone before anything happens, but it'll be taken care of. And the idea was just like, it's just the way it is, and dealing with the women there. And that was something that is one of the reasons why I didn't set up shop in the Congo and I set up in Ghana instead, because I knew that I would probably, I wanted to hurt somebody. I was gonna get murdered.
Yeah.
It wasn't safe for me because my intensity and my passion was too undeveloped. I didn't have I didn't have a sense of patience that's needed. Where it's happening right now, or you're seeing young girls 12 years old pregnant, and you almost know who it was. It was the headmaster at the school. You can tell. So my underdeveloped was like, well, he just can come back and try again. Right? He doesn't have to be on the planet right now. He'll come back and do it again, and next time he'll do it better. So honestly, from the heart, and I don't really even share that much because it doesn't look good. It was the indifference. It was just, I felt like there would be more of a heart for the people, and that not being there kind of embittered me to the region a little bit. I'm gonna go back, but when I'm a little bit more, I need more gray hairs. Yeah, I'm not ready. Yeah.
Earlier you said that the ancestors communicated in symbols.
Yeah.
But how would you explain seeing spirits if they use physical body?
Well, you're seeing a symbol.
That's the symbol.
Yeah. So I don't mean like, I don't know, like synchronicity per se, but I'm saying like a lot of people have an idea that spirits talk, that they had a dream and the spirit said something, or an experience and the spirit said something. But when you're speaking about saying, you're speaking about intellect, and they don't use this to communicate with you, they use this, okay? Because this is the real intelligence. This is the cloud. This is Satan, Saturn, you know, your brain, your thinking. So they don't use language because language is too easy to defeat, right? If I tell you you're a genius, you're a mate, or you were believe. You already did. It's somebody else. You know, you could do anything. The first thing that goes in your mind, no, I can't. I tried and I failed. All of these different words, right? So the symbol, like they say, it says 1,000 things, you know. So in the spiritual realm, we use symbol to communicate with them, and they use symbols to communicate back with us. That's why you have everything we wore from our clothing, you know, the way we painted, you know, different things, and you know, it was all symbolic. Even the language that we use and the sounds that we use, they send out certain reverberating symbols and shapes into the world, you know. So if I'm saying, like I use this example sometimes when we're pouring libations and we want to say all Orisha or all spirit, if you want to say all ancestors, we would say Bobo, Egun. But when the invaders came to the land, they took out all of those hard consonants. So now you hear some of the younger children talk, they'll say Bobo. Like they're saying like my family. Bobo Abusua. Abusua is family, right? But it was Bobo Abusua. So when you hear that Bo, it's like it goes out, you see? And it creates its own shapes on the way out, you know. So even the words that we use, the words create a perceptual landscape, even using symbology, you know. So the words are actually important. Some of them are just, they're hollow. They don't really have much to them. Like Bobo, it's like, oh, you know. Yes, sir.
I got an idea, but I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely. You well, yeah, I saw y'all fidgeting.
I didn't want to walk out in the middle of you talking. Right?
No, give thanks.
But thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't need that long. Just give me one. Like Bobo, just give me one. Like good 4. And I feel like, you know, it's good. It starts to trail off. And then you start looking around the room who's not clapping now. There's like 3 left. They don't love me. So yeah, give thanks. And, you know, any questions you guys have, feel free to ask me while I'm here. You know, I know we're exiting, but if you have any residual questions, and usually people do have those private questions. Yeah, erectile dysfunction. Feel free.
Not just engage with him right now, but also there's some incredible people in the room. There's vendors. And as indigenous people with a high concentration of melanin, black folks, African, we know we practice collective economics, cooperative, all kinds of good stuff, you dig? So please, can you patronize the vendors and engage as a family? Thank you.